Good morning. We're going to split this set of notes up into 3 different sections. So you're going to need the same note sheet for 3 different days. So first day, we're going to do 45, 45, 90 special right triangles. Okay, and what a special right triangle does is help us find the leg and the side lengths when you only have one based on angle measure. Okay, so in a 45, 45, 90 triangle, you should notice one, it's a right triangle because it has a 90-degree angle. Okay, now in these special right triangles, it gives us side lengths based on what these angles are. So if you notice that those 2 angles are the same, they're both 45, they're congruent, which means that their side lengths are also going to be the same. Okay, or their leg lengths, the corresponding ones that are opposite them. So if this is x, then that means this is also x. Okay, so our leg length for our 2 congruent legs is x. All that means is if this side length was 5, then this side length is also 5. Okay, now the hypotenuse has a different formula based on the leg lengths. Okay, so the hypotenuse, if the leg length is x, then the hypotenuse is x root 2. Okay, so what that means is if our leg length is 5, then our hypotenuse is 5 root 2. Okay, you're just putting that base leg length in for your x and your hypotenuse formula. All right, so let's look at some problems. All right, number 1, here's what you need to know. We know that this other angle is 45 degrees based on the fact that this one is 45 and this one's 90. So if we know that these 2 side lengths should be the same. So if this one is 8, then x should also be 8. Okay? So here's how we find y. We know that the hypotenuse, which is what this is, the hypotenuse is always across from the right angle. The hypotenuse is going to be our x root 2. Okay, so our leg, technically, let's say leg root 2. So our leg is 8, and then root 2. Okay, so let's look at number 2. It works the same way. We know that this angle is 45. We also know that if this angle is 45 and this angle is 45, then our corresponding side lengths are also going to be congruent. So if this leg is 25, then y is also 25. Now, it swaps our variables around, but that does not change anything. We're still looking for the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse is going to be whatever your leg is, root 2. So leg root 2. So our leg was 25. So our hypotenuse should be 25 root 2. Okay. Now, number 3 works a little differently. We know that this is it is 45 degrees. And we know that these 2 are going to be the same. However, it doesn't give us either one. It gives us the hypotenuse. Okay? If we know the hypotenuse is 19, and we also know that the hypotenuse formula is x root 2, then we can find what x is from that formula. So, if 19 equals x root 2 and we need to get x by itself, we have to divide by root 2. Here's where your handy-dandy radical rules come into effect. We cannot have, we get there, x equals 19 over root 2. But remember, we cannot have a radical on the bottom of a fraction. So how do we get rid of that? We rationalize it by multiplying by root 2 over root 2. Okay, so what does that mean? X equals 19 times root 2. So that's 19 root 2 over root 2 times root 2. Now remember, there's a shortcut. Anytime you multiply the same root, you're going to get the number under the root. So that's over 2. Now, if 19 and 2 would simplify, then you would simplify it, but they do not. So that's what our x is. X and y should be the same because they are congruent. So y is also 19 root 2 over 2. Now, like I said, we're going to do all 45, 45, 90s today, and then we'll do 30, 60, 90 tomorrow. So let's look at the back. Okay, the ones I have starred are the 45, 45, 90. The way I know that is it's giving me a 45 in each of these. Okay? So, now let's look at these 4. We know that this is 45 degrees, and we know that it has given us our hypotenuse. So this problem is going to look very similar to the last problem we just worked. Okay, if we know the hypotenuse is 28, and we know the hypotenuse formula is x root 2, then we can use that to find what x is. So we're going to divide by root 2 to get x by itself, just solving a simple equation. So x is 28 over root 2. Now, we can't stop there because we have to rationalize and get rid of that radical on bottom. So we're going to multiply by root 2 over root 2. All right, when you do that, 28 times root 2 is 28 root 2. And remember our shortcut, root 2 times root 2 just gives us the number under the root, which is 2. Now, this is not in simplest form because 28 over 2 will simplify to 14, because 28 divided by 2 is 14. So you get 14, and that radical does not change. Okay, so our x is 14 root 2. Okay, now if that's what x is, that is also what y is. So it's simple once you got it. Okay, number 12. This is giving us a leg again, okay, because we know this is 45, so these are our 2 congruent sides. Your hypotenuse should always be opposite the right angle. So if this is 4, then x is also 4. Okay, and if it gives us the leg length, finding the other leg length is easy, and finding the hypotenuse is easy, because remember our hypotenuse formula is just x root 2. If x is 4, then y is 4 root 2. Okay? Number 15. We know that this is 45. We know that these two are the same, which means it's giving us our hypotenuse. So if our hypotenuse is 9 root 2, and we know our hypotenuse formula is x root 2, we can find x by setting up an equation here and dividing by root 2. Now, this is going to work out beautifully for us because root 2 is going to cancel on both sides, which means x equals 9. And if x equals 9, then y also equals 9 because those are your congruent sides. Okay, last one. We are given the hypotenuse again. If our hypotenuse is root 10 and our hypotenuse formula is x root 2, then we can divide by root 2 to get x by itself. Okay, so that gives us x equals root 10 over root 2. So I'm going to rationalize it by multiplying by root 2 over root 2. That gives us root 20, because we'll do an inside times inside, and then root 2 times root 2 is just 2. 20 simplifies to 2 times 10, which is 2 times 5. That means we're going to bring out a pair of 2s, so that 2 comes out. I've run out of space, I'm going to do it here. 2 comes out, 5 is alone, so it's got to stay home. So root 5 over the 2 that was already there. Now, those 2 cancel because they divide to give you 1, so x is root 5. Now, these are our 2 congruent legs, so if x is root 5, then y is also root 5. Okay, so you're going to do some practice on only 45, 45, 90 right triangles. So make sure you pay attention to the instructions on your assignment, that you only do the 45, 45, 90 ones. Okay, hope you have a great day.